We begin tonight a special report focusing on a common but sometimes misunderstood aspect of our legal system. We're talking about plea bargains.
And there are a lot of elements that go into drafting a plea agreement. It not only allows both parties to avoid a trial, but sometimes allows the defendant to avoid serving a maximum sentence.
News 19's Lindsay Hayes has some local examples in our special report, A Plea for Justice.
Anyone accused of a crime in the U.S. has the constitutional right to a trial by jury.
The court will set cash in the amount of $250,000.
But many times the defendant gives up that right.
Most cases of any type end up in a plea. And we say plea agreement because sometimes people plead guilty to the charge.
When you plead guilty or no contest, you give up your right to have a jury trial.
In 2011 and 2012, 1,542 felony cases were opened in La Crosse County. Less than 2% went to trial, while more than 90% ended in a plea agreement or a reduced or dismissed charge.
I think sexual assault cases, homicide cases, some of the higher stakes cases are more likely to go to trial.
We've seen plea agreements in homicide cases, we've seen trials in homicide cases. We've seen underage drinking plead guilty, we've had trials for underage drinking.
Holman native Jesse Herman faced almost 100 years in prison after pleading guilty to causing the car accident in June of 2011 that killed 23-year-old Teresa Cruz of Alaska.
No one should ever have to go through this again because of him. I don't wish him any pain. I don't want to kill him. I don't want to harm him in any way. But I don't want to see him harm anyone else.
Herman agreed to plead guilty to 6 of the 8 felony charges against him.
I'm very ashamed of what happened, of what I've done.
And the judge then sentenced him to 31 years in prison, 1/3 of the time he originally faced.
You will be under supervision for the rest of your life.
And then in November of 2012, 2 La Crosse men took plea agreements by pleading guilty to being party to the crime of a reckless homicide in the death of 20-year-old Sarah Hogum.
I was under the influence of drugs at the time. I should have never been driving and definitely should not have had a gun in the car.
Because of these 2 men, she'll never be able to have a family of her own.
Kong Vu and his uncle Pao Chua-Vu each were sentenced to 35 years in prison. There are many different elements that help the defense and prosecution decide on a plea, along with the evidence. Each case also has individual characteristics.
In any case, we start off with what do we really think this case is worth in our system? La Crosse County standards, what our judges have done in the past, what our office has done in the past. We try to stay consistent with that.
We have a duty if our clients direct us or are interested in resolving their case short of a trial to try and achieve that.
Then taking into account the individual. Do they have a drug addiction, alcohol addiction, mental illness? Do they have a long prior record, no prior record? Are they remorseful? Have they paid restitution? Those are just some of the factors we have to consider.
And once a plea agreement is reached, ultimately the judge has the final say at sentencing.
We're looking at prevention. What can we do to keep this from happening in the future? And that may be locking a person up because that's the only way to prevent it. We may be looking at deterrence. What do we need to do to sentence this individual that this individual say, I never want to do that again? What message does this send to the community? We may be looking at rehabilitation that might help them make better choices in the future.
Each case has different characteristics. However, the plea process always considers the same things: the evidence, public safety, and the prior history of the offender.
Now, if you'd like to compare La Crosse County's plea process to the rest of the state, you can find information on our website, Wxow.com. We continue now our special report, A Plea for Justice. In 2012, more than 90% of La Crosse County criminal cases ended with a plea agreement, or commonly known as a plea bargain. Many of the crimes that led to the agreement had more than one victim. Tonight, we hear from a mother of 2 who was injured in an armed robbery, and she offers insight into a victim's role in the plea process.
My whole life has been changed from this.
La Crosse native Cynthia Duro still has flashbacks of the night that she was attacked and robbed at knife point.
A lot of things are still hard. My daughter still wakes me up from nightmares.
According to a La Crosse County criminal complaint, in February of 2012, 2 men attacked Cynthia in her car and demanded money.
Came to the driver window and shattered it with a knife, held the knife to my face. And that's the last thing I remember. I mean, they were yelling, screaming at me. I was trying to pull money out of my pocket to give it to them. I had cuts all over my head, my face, everywhere.
A judge convicted Jacob Foley and Kyle Wedekind of robbery with the use of force. Both men spent time behind bars at the La Crosse County Jail.
Ms. Rondo Wilbur, you're entitled to be represented by an attorney. Are you satisfied with the job he's done for you?
Yes. Jennifer Rondo Wilbur was also charged as party to the crime. A witness told police that Jennifer helped the men plan the robbery and told them where to find Cynthia.
Not once while they were attacking me did she decide to tell me the truth or what was going on when she was supposed to be my friend, or to try to stop it. She sat there and watched.
The DA initially charged Rondo Wilbur with a Class E felony, which carries a maximum sentence of 15 years in prison. But she instead agreed to a reduced charge of 2 misdemeanors. By law, the agreement has to consider the victim's wishes and opinions. The victim also has the right to address the court and speak at sentencing.
And her plea, I just don't think that it's fair that everything she's done and everything me and my family are still going through, she has yet to spend 1 day in jail.
Most people plead guilty to what they do.
La Crosse County District Attorney Tim Grinke could not talk about the specifics of this case, but he says the victim's statement always carries value.
By and large, people will be surprised that most victims that go through the process have a lot of say in what happens, and they are listened to.
Bond will be setting him on a $500. It'll be a cash bond.
And the judge also takes the statement into consideration.
There is no one-size-fits-all approach from victims. Victims have a wide range covering all potential positions as to the plea agreement. Some people simply don't want charges filed. Other people want the maximum prosecution and the maximum penalties to be imposed.
And will you open number 13?
And the state says that jail time isn't the only form of justice.
We know that just putting people in prison alone for a year or two might not do very much in terms of solving the underlying problem, whether it be mental illness or drug addiction or alcohol addiction. So if it's not a case where people are going to prison for decades, sometimes it might be better for the community to impose some sort of a treatment program.
And in this case, Rondo Wilbur was sentenced to 30 days in jail and 2 years probation.
This is about justice for this victim. And the kind of justice I can give her is basically the only thing that I can prove to you that there is a punishment.
Cynthia says she's not completely satisfied with the sentence. However, having a say in the plea process brought her closure.
She, talked to me and even said, she was sorry, and due to the fact that, they've given her so many chances, she had to do something to where I felt like there was some kind of justice. And with what the judge did, I do feel there was some justice.
Rondo Wilbur is currently serving her 30-day jail sentence in the La Crosse County Jail. And you can log on to our website, Wxow.com, for more information about the plea agreement process.